Hello kiddies, and welcome to yet another weekly tech atrocity. You could be spending some quality time with friends, or writing the next great novel, or even just dyeing your pubic hair ginger so your undercarriage resembles Ed Sheeran. But instead you're right here watching a sad old git chat shit about tech, and for that I salute you. And this week we're discussing Sony's Xperia 1 Mark VII, which kinda sneaked out this week almost completely unnoticed, as everyone was far too busy hurling abuse at Samsung and its slightly baffling S25 Edge. And also this week, your Uncle Spurt continues his awkward attempts to woo nothing head honcho Carl Pei, followed by a slightly greasy buffet of the least forehead-slappingly inane viewer comments. So make sure you've got a cold beverage to hand, forgive me if I don't bother using a glass, and let's crack on. Tech Spurt Weekly! So Tuesday was a rather fun-packed day, or at least it was if your hobby happens to be screaming obscenities into the online void about overpriced tech. Because not just one, but a pair of Savins draining blowers were released to less than critical acclaim from an army of keyboard warriors. First up was Samsung's Galaxy S25 Edge, which your Uncle Spurt has had a wee fondle of, and impressively slim it is too, although the price is nowhere near as slender, unfortunately, starting at a frankly hilarious 1,099 quid. And then to cap it off, just a few hours later, Sony spaffed out its freshest flagship, the Xperia 1 Mark VII, Xperia Takes Manhattan. And I've got to say, like quite a few recent flagships, this one's given me a pretty strong case of deja vu. Design-wise, it's certainly nothing particularly new or thrilling, with the same Gorilla Glass Victus and metal arrangement as the old Mark VI, although that filthy orchid purple model gets the official spurt of approval. Around front, again, just like the previous generation, you've got a 6.5-inch OLED display, and it's yet another Full HD Plus panel rather than the old 4K monsters. And yes, you got that usual creator mode shenanigans, so you can consume your content as the creator intended. In the case of TechSpurt Weekly, for instance, I intend that you're so massively shit-faced that you actually believe you're enjoying yourself. 12 pints of Drambuie minimum entry. Apparently that sound has actually been upgraded though, with some fresh audio integrated circuit action, while Sony thankfully still hasn't scrapped that headphone jack. Absolute bloody heroes. And Sony has gone with Qualcomm's latest flagship chipset, as you'd expect. So last year's 8 Gen 3 has been replaced here with the 8 Elite. So why the latest game should once again play beautifully, with Sony's spoojerific gaming mode to keep things competitive against the hordes of unwashed school kids who practically live on PUBG. However, bugger all upgrade for that 5000 mAh battery with once again 30-watt wide charging and 15-watt wireless charging. And for the cameras, well, Sony has once again stuck with the same main and ultra-wide sensors as the previous gen, but that telephoto sensor has been swapped out for a larger 50 meg Exmor RS effort, which should mean an upgrade for low-light zoom shenanigans. And oh yes, Sony couldn't resist pumping that camera full of AI juice. From AI eye tracking to AI framing, which actually allows you to capture both horizontal and vertical videos simultaneously. Now the rest of the Mark VII specs all sound very similar to the Mark VI, including the 256 or 512 gigs of internal storage, once again expandable via micro SD, thank you Sony, right down to the IP68 water and dust resistance, although you do now get slightly longer software support, 4 OS updates and 6 years of security patching. However, while the tech may sound rather familiar, that price has unfortunately crept up to a rather taint shrivelling £1,399. Ruddy, ouch. So if you're dead set on bagging yourself a Sony Xperia 1 Mark VII, I just pray you've got a steady supply of orphans to hand. You're gonna need to pack some of those kidneys on ice pronto. So are you tempted by the Xperia 1 Mark VII? Definitely let us know your thoughts down below, and if your answer is actually yes, then hey, you're clearly pretty well off, and you know your Uncle Spurt loves you, right? Please send me money. Now, your Uncle Spurt may be a cranky old cockswinger, but he still has one finger lodged firmly up the arse of the internet, so he can give that old popularity prostate a bloody good poke every now and then. And by the way, popularity prostate, bloody hard to say 10 times in a row fast, especially after several pints of Pernod. But anyway, one thing that I happen to have noticed is quite popular here on the YouTubes is a good old-fashioned reaction video. So I've decided I'll have me a bit of that in a fresh new segment I've called Uncle Spurt Reacts to Stuff. Uncle Spurt reacts to stuff, and some of it makes him glum. Some makes him happy, some makes him mad, and some of it is your mum. So this week I'm reacting to War great mate Col P reacting to me. So recently Nothing's YouTube boffins uploaded a video of War Col watching reviews of his very own CMF Phone 2 Pro and then basically voicing his opinions on us tech twats and our self-important waffle. And yes, your Uncle Spurt was one of those included. You got the dinky 6.1-inch iPhone 16e compared with a 6.77-inch Nothing CMF Phone 2 Pro. And this is one of the few areas where I actually prefer Apple's blower to the CMF jobby. Because if you know your Uncle Spurt, you know I like my smartphones miniature.
Yeah, me too. I mean, I would prefer a smaller phone personally. We have a lot of discussions about that, but for a lot of people using these type of phones in these price segments, it's like their main computer. Like they might not have a laptop, they might not have a desktop. They have to do everything on this device, and then for them, it's really important to have a bigger display.
Oh, so Cole, what I could take from that isn't completely discounting the idea of a mini compact style Nothing phone, possibly in the sort of mid-range to flagship tier. I'm thinking maybe a spot of Nothing Phone 3 mini action. Come on, Cole, mate. Absolutely have to make that happen now. Even the thought of it is making my nipples hard enough to cut through diamonds. If your Uncle Spurt, absolutely hands down, I would take the CMF phone every single time.
I think there are different products for different types of people. You can never go wrong with an iPhone. It's the safe choice. Nobody's going to ask you why you bought this. Whereas if you want to have a phone with more personality, I think the CMF phone is great. More than 1 billion phones are sold every year, and there's so many different types of people out there, so there's a lot of room for differentiation.
Oh, come on, Cole, you've been far too diplomatic here, mate. Honestly, just say what we all know that you're thinking anyway. I mean, here, I'll even say it for you. Screw you, Apple. Your phones are a congealing bowl of jizz soup. Your so-called intelligence is actually about as smart as a lobotomized goldfish. And the last time you did anything even vaguely innovative, Barry White was still singing soprano. There you go. Cole, buddy, doesn't that make you feel better? Oh, and by the way, Cole, my previous offer of a romantic OnlyFans entanglement still very much stands. If you haven't already authorized the restraining order, that is. We could absolutely go viral, and I'm not just talking about the clap. That's all cleared up now, Scout's honor. So anyway, that was that. And now it's time to react some more, but this time to the comments of you, the viewer, in a segment imaginatively titled Viewer Comments. Viewer Comments.
I guess I was pretty horny.
We'll start this week with Ferro6933, who says, from one bold beer-loving Chris to another, great choice of beer for this one. I do very much love me a delirium, and just Belgian beers in general, in fact. By making them double-digit strength, it certainly saves a lot of time. What I don't like quite so much is the morning after, where it feels like you've got a tiny excitable dachshund leaping around the insides of your skull with little hammers tied to each of its feet. Mythic Sons says, thank goodness you uploaded this in 4K. Methinks I sniff a hint of sarcasm in that comment. I mean, let's face it, this is not a face made for Ultra HD. Just wait till I have to start uploading in bloody 8K, then you'll be able to peer directly into my soul. Maxter says, all I need to know is, have you had time to play Clair Obscure Expedition 33? And if not, have you at least listened to the soundtrack on YouTube? I actually have as well. I haven't played many games recently, gotta say it, but I've played a good few hours of that for a gaming laptop video type thing I'm working on. And let me tell you, it's confirmed exactly what I already knew, and that's that these days I have the reaction speeds of a comatose slug. Like, everything is just absolutely kicking my arse, and it's turn-based combat as well. That's the worst thing. It's not even real time, but every time you have to do a quick time style push this button to avoid getting hit type thing, I'm usually about a fortnight late. But yeah, absolutely cracking soundtrack, though at least the fraction that I've heard so far, very atmospheric. Could use some more metal, but then what couldn't? A bit of a side one here from Smitchy says, my aunt is on her deathbed and does not have long to go, so can use a bit of joyful video. Cheers, mate. Ugh, that is proper rough, man. Sorry to hear that. I'm still not really sure if my crappy Wii videos could really provide much comfort at all, certainly in this kind of situation. If anything, they probably just have most viewers praying for the Grim Reaper to pop right up. But aye, all the best to you and the fam, Mara. Toolman99 says, Mr. Spurt is what your mum calls me. Touche, buddy. Leona Devon says, OMG Dizzy, that takes me back. I'm pretty sure I did already bang on about Dizzy in a previous episode of this heap of bollocks. But yeah, like I used to play that game so much as a kid. And I've got absolutely no idea why, because I just remember being permanently pissed off at that eggy wee twat. Specifically the way that he'd always roll like a fat kid being pushed down a steep incline every time that he jumped and inevitably end up in a bloody acid lake or a pit of spikes or whatever. And all that time that I spent playing sodden Dizzy, I could have been learning like 5 new languages or how to play the piano like a friggin' maestro. And I wouldn't be stuck in this tiny room doing these crap videos. Noisy Boy says, I have a biology exam on Tuesday afternoon, so I'll miss the S25 Edge video coming out. You missed an absolute cracker, mate. I guess I'll have to rewatch TechSpurt Weekly before I go in and hope that they can replicate my success in geography last year. Oh Christ, yes, I remember that. You see, you watched TechSpurt Weekly just before going into the geography exam and then absolutely aced it, right? So I'm some sort of weird, freaky Macam good luck charm. Well, certainly all the best, fella, good luck for it. Or should I say, actually, it's already happened, so hope it didn't all go tits up. Definitely let us know. Samantri says, I've almost completed setting up my new Razer 60 Ultra. Solid choice. Well worth the migration shenanigans from iOS to Android. Even better choice. The phone does absolutely everything, which can be daunting, but I'm sure I can tame it a bit with some app organization. Yeah, that'll certainly feel like quite the leap if you're used to a crummy old iPhone. And speaking of small things that are fun to fondle, last week's deeply erotic tech chat was all about Samsung's upcoming Galaxy Z Flip 7, and we've had a fair bit of correspondence on that note. Speed1, for instance, says, I have the Z Flip 6 and I rarely use the front screen. It's too small. I only fold the phone when it's in my pocket. If it's out, it's always unfolded. Some apps aren't optimized for the aspect ratio of the phone and goes off the screen on the sides. Aye, fair play. I mean, I go the exact opposite way in that I'm too lazy to actually bother unfolding the bloody thing, so I try and do absolutely everything on that cover screen. Michael Thierry says, surprisingly, I had a quick look at that phone yesterday while browsing the phone section in my local JB Hi-Fi store. Classic. The phone had a very noticeable crease when opened. It was an immediate put-off. I just wish we had the old style flip screen phones with a single screen when open, a keyboard, etc., and a screen on the front. I mean, technically we do still have those kinds of phones. They are full-on dumb phones, of course. Even the good old Barbie phone was basically that. But I'd certainly be highly intrigued by an upgraded smart version with that sort of style of design, certainly. Doggozy Dingle says, now we need jerry-rig everything, only then will we know everything. I think a lot of people are very interested to see him get his big old meaty hands on the Galaxy S25 Edge, see how many milliseconds it takes for him to snap it in two. L. Jacob says, I'm 76 and I find it easy to place apps on the cover display with good lock, but it shouldn't be necessary to go through the steps. Yeah, very true. It's not the general complexity of it all, it's just the general ball achery of having all these extra steps to go through to actually get all your apps working on the cover screen. Why can't they just do it by default? I mean, that's valuable drinking time basically pissed right up the wall. Not that I wouldn't be drinking while setting up good luck. Obviously, it's just the principle of the thing. And speaking of booze, Taxi Trekking says, hi Spurt, you mentioned White Lightning and the like. Well, my fave as a teen was Thunderbird wine. Oh Jesus, yes. Or should I say, no. Anyway, there was the blue label and the red label, and when I was still under the age of 18, I could be found on the local Red Rec with a bottle of Thunderbird and 10 Berkeley cigarettes. I'll tell you what, it really is some kind of wonder that any of us actually made it to middle age. Alessandro Balestrini says, it would be fun if you did a 30-day Linux challenge. I mean, it kind of depends on your definition of fun, really. I think personally I'd rather copulate with a wasp's nest. JT74 says, your mention of Long Dong Silver has brought back nightmares from my school days. I'm assuming these nightmares are rather similar to mine, basically inadvertently watching a load of porn and then being psychologically damaged for the rest of your young existence at all the massive slabs of ham on show. And that's another reason why Pornhub is such a great thing, because it's just normal people with normal man bits. No years of unnecessary trauma and therapy involved. Anyway, that's enough fun tech chat for another week. A massive thanks to everyone who commented last week. Please do slap your comments down below and we'll get to those next week. And speaking of next week, what the f is next week? Actually, that was a complete and utter lie, because unfortunately next week there will be no TechSpurt Weekly, because I'm actually going to be out in Abu Dhabi melting into a small fleshy puddle. And I can't even handle the 20 plus degrees it's been here this week. Now there it's supposed to be like high 30s or something, so I'm going to absolutely evaporate. And then of course it's school holiday shenanigans again. They come around quick, don't they? Anyway, TechSpurt Weekly should be back for another helping in 2 or 3 weeks. And don't worry, lots of sexy shenanigans lined up for you next week, including an insightful stream of consciousness on the Galaxy S25 Edge, which has landed here in TechSpurt Towers, as well as a full review of Motorola's Edge 60 Pro, its latest hero flagship, and some other tech type bollocks if I don't get so utterly mortal over the weekend that I can't even set up the camera. A massive thanks for watching this shower of to the bitter end. Please do poke subscribe and ding that notifications bell if you haven't done already, and have yourselves an absolutely stellar, sterling, wonderful weekend. Cheers everybody, love you!